I know there are flowers and dreams hiding themselves in your soul. The day they will bloom, they'll shock everyone who underestimated your fragrance. I wrote this on my Instagram a few days ago, and my heart was filled with so much love, so much emotions, so much compassion for the human potential. I did not realize that how deeply everyone wants to bloom, and just one poem can make a difference to their potential. The podcast for today is about such potential. It's about the possibility of the human awakening. This podcast is about root chakra or Muladhara chakra. The understanding of Muladhara chakra helps you realize your relationship with food, sleep, money, sex, and basically your entire existence. It makes you realize that healing is not a search. Healing is not that journey where you have to jump from one teacher to another, one book from another book, and you don't need to master every technique in the spiritual world to experience healing. Healing simply means that you have finally realized that you are enough. That you have finally realized that this is the beginning of a pilgrimage within yourself. And in this pilgrimage, the flowers and the dreams in you start to bloom effortlessly and unapologetically. I hope today's episode will help you experience that blooming and kickstart a very powerful journey in you. I am Chandresh Bhardwaj, and this is Break the Norms. Very personal relationship with root chakra. I mean, not that you don't have it or anyone else don't have it. We all have very personal relationship with root chakra, but I have a story that just feels very personal to me. And I never thought I'll be sharing it out in the public, but there are many other things that I thought nobody needs to know about me. But as I've shared those stories, I've seen so much of a difference that it makes in their journey. So hopefully even this one will inspire you. This happened right after I quit Wall Street. I was planning to start my work in the spiritual field. How Break the Norms happened was very interesting. After I quit Wall Street, I asked my father if I can assist in his organization, in his spiritual school, and assist him in some possible way. So I've always been working for him in some capacity since I was in 7th grade. I would ask him, I can do his research. I can, read the spiritual stuff of his clients. It would give me interesting training. So I was always involved in his work in some interesting way. But after Wall Street, I told him, this is what I want to do. And I'll be more than happy and I'll be very grateful if you accept me as a volunteer or in some capacity in your organization. So he asked me, just do whatever you want to do, but make sure you are putting your heart and soul into it, and we'll take it from there. So I started assisting in his traveling. So I would basically translate his talks into English when he would travel out of country. I started introducing some modern techniques in their organization, bringing new softwares. So basically my corporate experience, I also started assisting him in the complicated critical spiritual cases where he needed, more than few people to assist. So that began, the journey. And after I started assisting him, I realized I have a certain vision for spirituality. I want to create a certain platform or a medium of how I see spirituality. So we were in Sweden. I was there. His very good friend, I call him Uncle. So he was there. So 3 of us were there and we were talking about just random stuff. And I instantly mentioned to them that I'm really inspired to create my version of spirituality and I want to title it Break the Norms. And they said, okay, so why are you not doing it then? I said, I don't know. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to start, how to really work through it. And they said, you will never be ready if you keep thinking. But if you start putting the effort, you will get all the strength, all the wisdom, all the guidance from everywhere. So you just got to do it. So the conversation with them inspired me so much that I did not sleep that night. And I started creating the template for Break the Norms. So Break the Norms was born in Sweden in a way. It was conceived way before, but it was definitely born that night in Sweden. And I remember coming back to US, to New York, and really being excited and kind of started looking for an office space where I can do the talks, I can do my stuff. And I finally scheduled my first talk. And I realized on the day of, there were no inquiries from anyone who wanted to come for the talk. And I had this fear that maybe no one will show up. And at 6 p.m., only my fear showed up because no human showed up. And I was disheartened, but more than that, I was very embarrassed because I was using a very tiny space in my father's center where I would hold the talk. And his students were very excited. Our guru's son, he's stepping into this and he's doing his first talk in New York. It's going to be so amazing. But when no one showed up, just to protect my ego, just to boost that ego, I made up a story. I said, I canceled the talk. I didn't want to do it today. So I'm doing it next week. And I scheduled it for next week. Again, no one showed up. And again, I scheduled after 2 weeks. And again, no one showed up. And then one day it was raining. And I was guessing, I'm sure today no one will show up. And I got a phone call. There was one lady who said, I'm on my way to your place in New York, and I'm around there, but I cannot find it. And I gave her the location very, very specifically, and she still could not find it. And I literally offered her that wherever you are, stay there. I'll drive. I'll come and pick you up because you might be the only audience for my talk today. And she said, no, I'll figure out. I think I'll be there. But yeah, after 20 minutes, she called back that I'm not coming. And I said, are you sure? I can still do the talk for you. And she said, no, I'm fine. And I still think maybe I scared her away by just saying that it's okay, I'll come and pick you up. She probably didn't realize she was my only audience for that day. But after that day, I kind of really, I think the confidence in me shattered because I had no job. There was no Wall Street stuff. And I left it with a lot of pride that I'm not going to be back here. So as a human, as a young boy who was 22 or 21, I think at that time, I already had a lot of fear and complexity, inferior complex, basically that I'm not going to be good enough for this job. I'm not ready, not qualified. Who will listen to someone who's just in early 20s talking about the truth of life? And those fears were showing up. And out of just disappointment and sadness, I just stopped scheduling it. And one day, my father sat next to me and he said, I know you are upset. You are sad that no one is coming to your talks. But when you are ready for them, they will come. And I said, I'm not sad. I'm fine. And, I understand this is, work. That's how it happens. Again, the ego in me did not want to accept failure in front of my father. And I did not accept it. I said, I'm fine, don't worry. And he said, okay, when you feel calm and relaxed, you can talk to me. I mean, he's not only my father, but he's my guru. So he knew what was going on in my head. So after a few days, when my ego took a back seat, I spoke to him. I said, I'm trying my best. I'm doing all the online promotions. I'm doing all the possible stuff. Still, no one is showing up. What am I doing wrong? And he said, I don't know about the online promotions, and I basically don't give a damn about it. What I know is that you are not rooted in your own energy. He said, I mean, I understand you left your homeland, India, then you moved to New York and you chose a field of study, which was finance and accounts. And again, you got uprooted from there by your own choice. And now you are building a root here. So these kind of things basically start to create a certain fear and doubt in the root energy. And also you're a sensitive man. So it's most likely your root energy is, not in its alignment. So take a break, meditate on your own truth, meditate to build and bring strength to your root chakra. And things are going to go in a different direction. and he gave me a mantra. He asked me to meditate in a certain way and gave me certain, few other tips, which I'm not mentioning because they are just specifically for me, and I don't want to share it so that, everyone starts doing it, because these things should be specific for specific problems and people. So I started doing that. And I remember exactly after, I think 20 or 30 days, I started having a very new energy, a very new confidence within me. Finally had the courage of doing a workshop after this gap. And this time I was in a very different space. I did not care much about the narrative of my mind. I did not care much about what will people think. My basic focus was on the purpose, on the mission, the intention that I was building. And I've always said that surrender your life to something bigger than you. And I had found something way bigger than my own existence, which was my devotion, my service to divinity, to spirituality. And I wanted to make sure to do complete justice to it. So I scheduled the talk, and guess what? 25 unique, beautiful human beings showed up. No online promotions, just the usual sharing on social media. And in those days, only Facebook was the prime social media, and there was a website called meetup.com. That's all. So the people showed up, and I was so surprised. It was almost as if I was not even ready to face these 25 humans. So I went to the room, I stood behind them, and there was a lady who kept on looking here and there because it was supposed to start at 6 p.m. and I was not starting that because I want to take a few deep breaths before I would share, because the topic of my first talk ever was death. That's what I wanted to talk about. And she looked at me and she said, "Where's Guru?" I said, "Who?" She said, "Where's Guru? It's 6:05 and he's still not here." I said, "There's no Guru who's coming. I mean, I'm the one who's going to do it." And she looked at me and she said, "Oh, you are Chandresh." I said, "Yeah, I am Chandresh." And again, in those days, there were no place to put a lot of pictures. So I had a very small thumbnail of my own picture online. And I guess she was not expecting a 22-year-old boy talking about death. Anyway, the class started, and I sat in the corner of the room and started talking about death. And for the first 5 minutes, I was talking what I had prepared. And I was feeling so nervous, so uneasy, anxious about every word I was sharing. But after the 5 minutes, I started losing that prepared script. I started losing all the outline. And that's the best thing that happened, because then I started talking the real stuff about what I wanted to talk on death. And that talk really became a very memorable experience because I still meet those people who showed up in that talk. In fact, I'm going for dinner tonight with 2 people from that talk. It's been more than 10 years and they still are in touch with me. And I feel what really changed the entire story was my relationship with my root. And not as in just root chakra, but the root of my existence, the root of my strength, the root of why I am here in this world. And in the last 10 years, I have come across so many people who are genius, intelligent, loving, compassionate, creative, and yet they are having so much difficulty in relating with their own self. They're having so much difficulty in making money, spending it wisely, having the right relationships, not getting the good job. I mean, the problems keep on building up. So when we really try to understand root chakra, the other name for root chakra is Muladhara chakra. Muladhara, Mula means the source or the root. Dhara means flow. So when the flow is not flowing well through the root, we are going to have some problems. And those who don't know about chakras, chakra is basically, I would say, a roadmap of your awareness. Chakras are not physical things. If you dissect a human body, you will not see a chakra. But understanding of chakras helps to cultivate and cultivate the awareness, but also navigate the energy in a very mindful way. I truly get it why the concept of chakras was created by the yogis and the gurus, because it's so easy to explain what is happening and why it is happening by simply pointing the chakras. Without the chakras, it would be a little difficult to explain. And although the most popular number of chakras are 7, but the more you start reading about chakras, the more complicated it becomes, because there are certain schools which would say there are 1,440 chakras. And there are certain tantric teachers who would say there are 112 chakras in the body and 2 chakras out of the body. And they all are right. None of them are wrong. I mean, you could start studying all the chakras and create your own version of 2,500 chakras or any random number. So don't get too technical with how many chakras are there, the specific location of each chakra. I'm not that kind of teacher or seeker who get too much into the technical stuff. I go with the experience. If it's not giving me the experience, then it doesn't mean much to me. So, and I hope you also allow yourself to have the experience of root chakra rather than just reading about it. The rough location of root chakra is close to the base of the spine, near the reproductive organs. And root chakra is affected by a lot of things. But I'll tell you, if you are really amazingly aligned in the root chakra, you are going to have super confidence in what you do. You are going to manifest things in life effortlessly. Your relationship with food, money, sexual energy, spiritual energy, it's going to be so powerful. Your physical energy is going to be so inspiring to everyone. The moment you start something, you are going to take it to the finish line and do it so well. These are the examples of people, who have great root chakras. Their existence, their strength is so deeply rooted that nothing can shake them. If you read the stories from Buddha's life, you will be surprised that he was not at all worried about what people are telling him. And if they're spitting on him, if they're telling him some harsh words, he did not really cared about it, because that's the power of root chakra. You just get really, really, good with your own existence. But there are certain things that create problems in the root chakra. So I'll share a couple of those problems. First of all, if you are misaligned with the root chakra, you're going to have a very problematic relationship with food, sleep, money, and sexual energy. The people who have complex relationship with root chakra end up either overeating or undereating, or you'll end up eating food that's just not good for you. The people with complex relationship with the root, they'll either oversleep or they just cannot sleep at all. And it becomes a huge problem for them. They have nightmares often. The people with root chakra problems, they have very complex relationship with their sexual energy, with their sexual partners, with even the family members. And there are many ways of, touching these topics. So I have divided this into 3 major problems that I've seen happening in the root chakra. And they are divided into 3 fixations: oral fixation, anal fixation, and genital fixation. So the first angle, the first layer of the problem is oral fixation. And the word oral. So when this becomes a major problem in the root chakra, you will basically like to chew all the time. It could be, chewing food, tobacco, or just smoking, or just basically obsessive with constantly doing something with the mouth. These are the people who get obsessive with oral sex, almost unhealthy. I mean, every obsession is unhealthy. So this obsession goes to a very deep level. You will obsessively kiss. You will obsessively indulge in oral sex. You will obsessively indulge in the addictions that are connected to substances. And this continues on a very, very unhealthy level, and it can even cause a permanent damage in the brain, in the body, and you get it. It's just oral fixation, but it gets very, very deep. Have you met anyone who likes to talk a lot when they're anxious, who likes to talk a lot when their ego is slightly hurt, or they start screaming loudly, or they raise their voice too loud when their ego is hurt, or when their expectations are not fulfilled, or when someone says something which are not in alignment with their thought pattern. So these are the people who are very deeply disconnected from their root. So how they express that uneasiness is by getting too loud with their voice. And how a lot of these people take out their stresses through just oral fixation. Could be oral sex, with food, smoking, drinking. And again, there's healthy level of everything in life. And that's why I'm using the word obsession, because this gets to the level of obsession. If you know someone who's into this, or if you are that person who's definitely part of that oral fixation, you got to basically really understand the root of it. Why am I indulging in this pattern? You got to ask yourself, why am I fixated toward smoking or drinking or having a certain substance? Since I work with a lot of people in addiction, I've always seen anyone who's in addiction, in recovery, they are deeply longing to experience something really powerful. And when they cannot get that powerful experience, they simply cling on to whatever is available around them. And they are the people who tend to get addicted to sex, addicted to alcohol, addicted to some of the most dangerous drugs out there. So you got to really and honestly reflect upon, what is it that's making me do this? What is the root of this attraction toward oral stuff all the time? Okay. Secondly, anal fixation. So what happens in anal fixation? Basically, you become constipated. And it's not just the constipation in food, it's the constipation in everything. The constipation of expressions, emotions, money, pleasure, everything that you must experience effortlessly, it becomes constipated. You're not able to make money easily. You're not able to spend money easily. You constantly feel insecure. You have money problems. You tend to possess people around you. You tend to have a lot of self-doubt in the process. This kind of stuff starts to attract just wrong people, wrong decisions, because you're constantly doubting people, or you are money triggers you. Any sort of money talk starts to trigger you. Any sort of talk which involves abundance, that triggers you. You want to make money. You want to be successful. You want to have a happy and healthy relationship with everyone, but that does not, work out when the root chakra problem is really into anal fixation. And a lot of people in the anal fixation, they tend to have a very unhealthy or almost sinful relationship with their body. They are not able to really feel the wholeness of their body. They're not able to really feel fully secure in their body. They're constantly hiding their body. They're constantly working very, very hard on their body just to make sure it looks good, just to make sure it's fitting in with the norm. It gets very complicated. This whole anal fixation thing also brings wrong decisions in your life. You tend to make decisions based on your insecurity, doubt, and fear. And if you are someone who feels anal fixation, you basically got to, I would say, talk with someone to begin with, or just write a journal. What exactly are your problems with money, with food, with emotions? Do you feel you're not sharing your knowledge or wisdom with the world because you think you have a secret to success? And if you share it out in the world, everybody will jump on it and they'll take away your success? Because I know a lot of people who tend to have few good ideas about what they do, and they make a decent living from it, but they also feel very fearful about sharing that secret, that knowledge, because they feel only they have it, and if they share it out there, this is it, their success will be taken away. But the truth is, when you start sharing things more out there, you not only empower others to join your tribe, but also you create space for new ideas. You create space for new creativity. Let's say if I have this tantra meditation stuff, And if I'm just holding it within, that I'm not going to share it with anyone, I don't want anyone else to become good in Tantra, then basically for rest of my life, I'm only going to have this 5 ideas about Tantra. But the more I start to share with the world, the methods, the power of it, it will inspire me to go deeper, because when more people do it, they will practice it, they'll experiment with it. I'll get more, feedback. I'll be inspired that this is bringing such a powerful change. So I feel when you simply are holding back a lot, this just creates problems in every other area of life as well. Okay. The third layer is the genital fixation. So genital fixation, basically, it means that it invites sexual disorders. It invites problems with your own sensuality. People who have genital fixation, they are not able to feel fully sexual. They are not able to experience their sensuality in its wholeness. People with genital fixation basically understand the sex as a sneeze. So they feel sex just needs to be released and that's all. They do not cultivate a spiritual, a sacred relationship with the sexual energy. And people with genital fixation are heavy into abusing their sexual energy, choosing wrong partners, choosing just wrong habits to channel their sexual energy, experimenting with celibacy, monogamy, polyamory, and all ton of stuff out there. Basically, because the sexual urge is the biggest when it's genital fixation. And that's the most unconscious effect of root chakra. When you are not in alignment with root chakra, this is what happens. You are simply focused around food, sleep, and sex, and you don't know how to be conscious with it, how to be aware about these things. But when you start cultivating a healthy and happy relationship with your root, then magic starts to happen. You start to eat food that feels most mindful to you, that feels most conscious to you. I have witnessed it countless times in my life. So I have been vegan for, I don't know, more than 15 years. I've been vegetarian before that. But I've never told anyone you should be vegan. You should be only eating this kind of food. Because first of all, it is a personal choice, but also it's a choice that has to happen organically. If you simply start doing it because you wanted to respect me and you were chasing some sort of result through it, then it falls away pretty quickly. But my method is to go through the route of awareness. I want to make you so aware about your body, about your senses, about your own spiritual journey within, that your food starts to play its own organic role and you automatically start to eat food that just feels healthy, that just feels right to you, and not the food that's conditioned on you as you were growing up. And same effect starts to happen with sleep. When you start to connect deeply with the root chakra, you start to have a very, I would say, very powerful relationship with sleep. You start to meditate through the sleep. You start to have the dreams that will guide you. You start to wake up from your sleep in a very powerful way. It's been many years. I've had a very interesting relationship with sleep. I don't need a lot of sleep, but when I sleep, I have been guided in most powerful ways through my sleep. Every other week, I have a dream where I'm guided and I act on it. And it turns out to be so empowering, so powerful. And I'm a bit of a private person when it comes to sharing these aspects of my life. And because I think that's why I always say my experiences are private, but my methods are public. So I'm happy to share the methods, because I also feel if I start sharing my experiences too often, your mind will start to project those experiences and then you may miss out on your own experience. So that's why I want to focus on the methods. And finally, when you start to dive deeper into the root energy, your channeling of sexual energy becomes very powerful. I have known people who started practicing abstinence, complete celibacy, and they end up abusing the sexual energy in a very crazy way. Because when you're simply bottling up the sexual energy and not sharing it with anyone for a few months or few years, it starts to find a very ugly outlet. And that's why I feel I've never seen more angry or violent or egoic people as much I've seen them in spiritual community, because spiritual community experiments with so many different kind of stuff, and it ends up making them either full of ego or full of bottling up of emotions and energy, and it starts finding very complicated outlets. And as a child, I used to experiment that, show me a spiritual person and I'll show you how I can make them angry in less than 10 seconds because they are so reactive. I don't do that anymore, but because I want to focus my own energy into more creative outlets. But I'm sharing it because this is a possibility. You might be thinking that you're cultivating spiritual energy, but it's possible it just, it's creating another suppression, another escape in you. And that's why the role of a teacher, role of a guru is so important. And one of the things that I must mention that happened with me as I started healing my root chakra, my work started improving in a very powerful way, because obviously my relationship with my own energies started to heal. My experience with my own root started to heal. And I train meditation teachers. I work with a lot of new coaches. I work with a lot of people who are, out in the Wall Street doing very important jobs. And one of the common thing between all of these people is that they have an unhealthy or complex relationship with money matters. And I had as well. I remember I did not know how to deal with money, although I was, accounting and finance major, but I just couldn't deal with money. I just couldn't understand how the money flows, how to make money through this work. Also, there's so many judgment. I think basically most people expect spiritual people to be in poverty, to not have a good car, to not wear good clothing. So if I'm wearing a good clothing, driving a good car, putting on a good shoe, that becomes my criticism often. That, oh, you're a spiritual person. Why are you wearing this shirt? It's too nice. Why are you driving this car? It's too luxury. And I know the people who say it, they have complex relationship with money because they feel money should only be with a certain group of people. And they think this because they feel money is wrong to begin with. But I feel money is neutral energy. It's how you channel it. And I remember when I started to heal my relationship with money, I became so confident in knowing my value. When people would come to me, I would tell them, I am expensive, but I know my value and I'll help you understand your value. But having said that, I've also made this a policy in my work that no one will be refused a service if they don't have the funds and if they really want to go deeper into the journey. So in all these years, I've never refused service to anyone who's really deeply committed to work. I'm happy to help them without any money. But I'm very aware of my own value, and I put that, but I also offer very easy, different options to people who just want to dive deeper into it. And I'm able to do this only because of one thing, because I was able to heal my relationship with money, and more than that, my own existence, my own emotions, my own expression. Okay. So I'm sharing this with you because if you are struggling with how to put a value to your work, how to put a value to your existence, please get into a deeper meditation journey with yourself. Okay. I have a meditation in this podcast series on sexual healing. Jump on it. It's called sexual healing, but it has a lot of other powerful effects as well. So I want to take the next few minutes to briefly touch what exactly you could do to heal the root chakra. Okay. So number one, start releasing your energy. Don't hold back. I would even suggest if you go for hiking, go on the top of a mountain and just scream, just cry, just laugh, dance, jump, whatever you want to do, just do it. Feel what you need to feel. Don't hold back your most fundamental feelings. Okay. If you are into yoga, go through the yoga experience, which really brings openness around your root center. Body movement is so important. Eat the kind of food that brings you relaxation, that brings you strength, that brings you healing, and not the food that makes you hyper, not the food that makes you feel bloated. If you feel a certain food is not affecting you in the positive way, go away from it. You got to be so honoring toward your body in this root chakra healing that you cannot afford to eat the wrong food. Okay, respect your sleeping pattern. Do not abuse them. It's coming from someone who often stays up all night. But the moment I feel it's affecting my creativity, my mood, I stop it right away and I get on to a very normal pattern. And I'm working on it to build more and more healthy, normal pattern of sleeping. And if you feel you are too much masculine or too much feminine, you got to work to bring a balance of both masculine and feminine within. Okay, build your receptivity toward compassion, build your receptivity toward intuition. If you have a certain intuition, follow it. If you don't like something about someone, talk to them respectfully. If you like something about someone, let them know. Be open to poetry. Be open to the uncomfortable talks. If you only do the comfortable things, then the root chakra does not build well. All right. And finally, the spiritual meditative technique is to hammer the root chakra. So when I do public meditations, I get people to hammer the root chakra through the mantra chanting. So they chant the mantra loudly, and that starts to create a certain opening in the root chakra. I also recommend that if you are into dancing, jumping, do that before you meditate. That will start to create very powerful effects on the root chakra. And when you meditate, keep your focus, your awareness around the root chakra, around the navel center. So inhale the breath, hold the breath for a few moments, and then exhale. Just do that for 10 minutes every morning and evening. That's going to definitely start to heal in a very gentle and organic way. So these are very basic techniques that anyone can implement, anyone can get into, and hopefully it will start to heal the root chakra. And I do want to thank everyone for the listening, the feedback, the questions. And you can always send me questions through my website, cbmeditates.com, and connect to my social media outlet on Instagram, which is also cbmeditates. And if you do like this podcast, please drop a review. That definitely brings encouragement. And more than that, it makes the podcast visible to more people. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for listening. And here's a lot more power and love to you and your root chakra. Talk to you soon. I hope this podcast may travel through the untapped universe of your darkness, light, courage, passion, and so much more. Please do subscribe and be ready to break your norms. I am so excited and very honored to be part of your sacred journey through this podcast.